Everyone, trust you all are doing well. So what we're going to do in this one is we're going to create jobs to like a reply and unlike a reply, like a thread and unlike a thread. All right, and I'm going to put a job at the end of them because I'm going to create two Laravel components that's like a thread, and I don't want them naming to be clashed with one another. All right, so I'm just going to add the job so that when I see it, I can easily distinguish between if it's the job or actually the Laravel component. All right, so in this one, we're just going to do PHP artisan. Just remember to migrate your database as well, since after we finished the database setup, we didn't migrate the database. Just do a PHP artisan migrate fresh and test C. So while you're in development, it's all good to refresh your database and seed it, but once you're in production, please don't do this. Okay. So I'm just reseeding my database and all done right there. All right, so the next thing I'm going to do, I'm just going to create those jobs. So PHP artisan make job, and I'm going to call this like reply job. Okay, so that's the first one, and the second one will be the thread. And now I'm going to do the unlike reply job. Last one will be the thread. Okay, so now we got our 4 jobs. So if we go to app jobs, you will see we got our like reply job, like thread job, unlike reply, and unlike thread. All right, so let's start off with our first one like here. Right, I'm not going to have queues, so I'm just going to delete all of this. Okay, implements should queue. We can delete this one as well, so just remove that, remove everything in here. All right, we're going to have a construct method like that. It's all good, and the handle like this. Okay, so just clean it up. Right, now the thing is, what we're going to do is we're going to create 2 private variables, and the one is the private reply. Okay, this is our reply job, so this one is going to be private reply in order to know which reply we're going to deal with. Okay, so when we actually create the job. Okay, the next one is going to be a private user, and this is if we want to know which user actually liked the reply. Okay, so then we're going to pass in our construct method the reply as that reply, and just make sure that we import it at the top as well. You can see our user is imported, but I will need to import my reply as well. All right, so then we're going to set this. You guys have seen me already done this a couple of times. We're going to set it to that reply, and obviously that user we're going to set to that user. Okay, so that's it. Right, the next thing is now we need to be able, in our handle method right here, we need to be able to know if we can like the job or not like the job. All right, so let's create an if statement. All right, if this reply, the reply that we're going to get, is liked by, you guys remember we created this thread, this one like here, this method inside our user model, in our hasLikes thread, and then we bring in that hasLikes thread in our reply. Okay, so if this reply is liked by, then we're going to pass in this user. So this is going to be returning a true or false statement. So it would say, yes, this is already liked by this user, and then we're going to throw an exception. Cannot like item. Cannot like. All right. Already liked. Okay. We obviously haven't created this yet. All right. So we need to create this exception. So if this reply is already liked by this user, we must throw this exception right here. If not, then we're basically going to say this reply liked by, then we're going to pass in this. Quite simple, isn't it? All right. That's it. That's all basically our whole method. All right, but now the problem is we need to create this cannot like item exception. Okay, so let's quickly do that. So under exceptions right here, we're going to create a new file and cannot like item exception.php is obviously. All right, so in our exception, we're going to create a PHP, obviously opening tag. Right, and then we're going to namespace, and we're going to go to app exceptions. Okay. Now we're going to say use exception. Use exception. Now we're going to create a class, and we call it cannot like item extends exception. Okay. Like this. All right, and then we're obviously going to create a public static function, and we're going to call it already liked. Okay. The method in here, the one that already liked, is the one I'm going to be calling, this method right here. Right, and we're going to put in a string, and I'm just going to pass in the item. So the item can either be a reply or it can be a thread. Okay, so that's the parameter we're going to pass through. And I'm just going to put in self. Right, and then we're going to return a new self. We're going to say basically whatever the item is. All right, so in this case, if it's a reply, it's going to be there. All right, so meaning it will just be like a variable saying like this item. So in this case, we're saying the reply. Okay, so if I change this to box, it will basically say the box cannot be liked multiple times. Okay, so that's why in this case, I'm just putting in the reply. Okay, it's a parameter. Let me just put this. Okay, the item cannot be liked multiple times like this. Okay, so that's our exception done. All right, so let's go to our job and make sure that we import this. Otherwise, we're going to get an error. All right, so the next part is we need to set up our like thread job as well. So I'm going to remove all of this as well. So leave the queue. It cleans up the code a bit. All right, so in our like reply, the next one is like a thread. So we need to create more or less the same thing. So in this case, we need to get the private thread. Okay. As you will see, it's quite easy. And then we're just going to pass in the user. Okay, then we bring in our thread model. Just make sure you import it at the top. And the next one is the user model. Right. So just make sure you bring it in at the top as well. And then we're going to set the variables. This dot thread is equal to thread. I know sometimes my typing is painfully slow to watch. Just speed up the video. All right, because my fingers are ice cold and I don't have heat in the office. All right, the next thing is we go in our handle method. We're going to do exactly the same thing as we did with our like a reply, but I'm going to type it out anyway. Okay, so if I said I'm going to type it anyway, and I set my typing is a bit slow, so I'm just going to copy it right there. Right, and I'm going to paste it in here. All right, now instead of the reply, we're going to say if this thread is liked by this user, basically cannot, and then we add just the thread like this. All right, and it will throw that exception to say like, listen, the thread cannot be liked multiple times. That's all it does. Nothing special, just a plain simple text that has been thrown. Okay, string to be technically correct is like this user. All right, so basically now we've got our job. Now the next part that we need to do is we need to unlike a reply and unlike a thread. Okay, so let's go to our jobs, unlike a reply. Let's start with this one first. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to delete everything again. We're going to leave the jobs out and we're going to delete that. Let me just clean this out again. Right, as you guys know the trend already, we need to create two variables. We're going to do two private variables. The first one, private reply, and private user. Okay, and then we're going to add in our unlike, we're going to add that, bring in that reply and the user model. Just make sure you import them at the top as well. As you can see, as I'm typing, the VS Code actually brings in it for me as well. So this reply is equal to reply, and this user is going to equal this user. Awesome. All right, the next thing that we want to do is we want to actually, in our handle method, we just want to basically delete the reply. Okay, so what we're going to do is this reply, just going to say this liked. You guys remember that method? I'm just going to pass in this user. No, what? That user right there. All right, now I'm not going to type in all of this in our unlike thread job. Okay, so I'm just going to copy it. I can do it for you for your guys' sake. Right, let me do that, because normally what I would have do, I would have just copy and pasted it. Delete this. Delete it like this. It's good to type it out in the beginning for just to kind of get your brain wired in the right direction. Right, so we're going to get a private thread, and the other one is private user. Okay, and then in our construct method right here, we're just going to bring in the thread and the user like this. Okay, now we're going to set them. It's very good exercise just to kind of get used to doing all of this stuff. All right, so just keep on typing it up. I know it's very quick and easy to just copy and paste, but we don't learn that well when we do that. And then we're just going to say this thread is basically this like. But so basically all this does is just deleting that like. Okay, just pass in this user. All right, so now we got that job all done. Okay, so that's it. So we got created our 4 jobs. So we'll like them, and then we create an exception. So when we like the thing, we can just throw an exception if the user already liked the job. All right, so that's it for this one. All right, so in the next one, what we're going to do is we already created that now. We're going to create our Laravel components to actually create and update the replies accordingly. All right, so thank you guys for watching. If you please like the video, please give it a like. If you don't, please give it a dislike. Constructive, negative, suggestions, everything is welcome in the comment section. And yes, I think that's about that. And please consider subscribing to the channel. I like to get to 1,000 subscribers. It's my goal, and I would like you to take part in that goal. And yes, thank you guys, and see you in the next one.